Before starting, if you want to access our exclusive BL stories, you can follow our Patreon page. Link in the channel description. So let's begin. My name is Keir Ashford. I am 32 years old, an Omega. For 7 years, I have been the best courier in a city that pays me to be invisible. Last Tuesday, inside the shipping manifest archive of Meridian Logistics, I found records that should not exist. 15 pages of names, timestamps, destination addresses that led nowhere legal. I had 90 seconds to decide what to do with what I had seen. I did not know, when I opened that drawer, that I had already been seen entering the building. I did not know that the man watching me was about to make me the most protected Omega in the underworld, and the most hunted. Let me take you back to before that Tuesday. To mornings that started the same way every day for 3 years. The same route. The same coffee from the same cart on the corner of 5th and Ash. The one run by a beater named Ellis who never asked questions and always had the order ready. Black coffee, 1 sugar, no cream. He knew my face but not my name. That was the arrangement. I worked out of a dispatch office on the 6th floor of a building that had once been respectable. The elevators broke more often than they worked. The windows hadn't been cleaned since before I started. The carpet in the hallway smelled like old coffee and bad decisions. But the dispatch office had cheap rent and no cameras, and the manager, a tired alpha named Valdez who had given up on ambition around the same time his hair started thinning, never asked what was in the packages. He just paid me per delivery and kept his mouth shut. That was the kind of work I did. Courier jobs that didn't show up in any system. Packages that needed to arrive without questions. I had built my reputation on being reliable and forgettable. An Omega who shows up on time, delivers what he is paid to deliver, and leaves before anyone thinks to wonder about him. I varied my departure time by exactly 7 minutes each day. Never the same minute twice. I counted the seconds in my head as I walked. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Timing my footsteps so that I never fell into a rhythm anyone could predict. It had kept me alive for 11 years. The city had 2 economies. The one people talked about in business meetings, and the one people whispered about in parking garages at midnight. I worked the second one. I knew which streets had cameras and which ones had enforcers. I knew which buildings had security that could be bribed and which ones had security that would shoot first and check the body later. And I knew, like everyone in the underground economy knew, that Alastair Crowe ran most of it. He was not a rumor. He was not a myth. He was a fact, like gravity or taxes or the smell of rain before a storm. The Crowe Syndicate had controlled the city's black market for 14 years. Not through brute force, though they had plenty of that. Through logistics, coordination, discipline. Alastair Crowe had taken a collection of violent, competing factions and turned them into something that functioned like a corporation. Alastair Crowe was for alphas what the sun was for the solar system. Everything orbited around him. Everyone measured themselves against him. I had never met him. I had never wanted to. The first rule of surviving as an Omega in this world was simple. Stay below the line. Don't let anyone important notice you. Because being noticed by an alpha in power meant being considered. And being considered meant becoming property. I had seen it happen too many times. Omegas who caught the wrong eye. Omegas who were too beautiful, too capable, too independent. They disappeared into the upper floors of buildings I never entered. They became names on manifests I never read. I kept my head down. I delivered my packages. I counted my minutes. I thought that was enough. There were small things, in the weeks before that Tuesday. Nothing that exploded. Nothing that screamed. Just quiet wrongnesses that I noticed and filed away because noticing and saying something were not the same skill. A package I delivered to the 10th floor of Meridian Logistics that should have gone to the 3rd. An address I recognized from a delivery 3 weeks earlier, but the name was different. A shipping manifest left on a desk in plain view. It looked ordinary. Domestic freight. Packing materials. But the weight totals did not match the listed contents. I had handled enough cargo to know the difference between what a box says it holds and what it actually weighs. Meridian Logistics was a legitimate company. Old money. Respectable. They moved freight across 3 states. Their trucks had clean inspections. Their insurance was paid up. They had a reputation for boring, reliable service. That was exactly why I noticed. The dirty money in this city moved through businesses that looked clean. That was the standard play. But Meridian was too clean. Too boring. The kind of company that never made mistakes, never drew attention, never had a single audit flag in 10 years. That level of perfection was not competence. It was design. On Monday night, I received a package for delivery to the Meridian archive. Standard job. Small box. Labeled as office supplies. Valdez handed it to me without looking up from his crossword puzzle. Same building as last week, he said. Personnel Records Department. What floor? 6th. I took the package. I did not mention that the manifest I had seen the week before had been marked for the same department. I did not mention that personnel records required a specific authorization code, and that the package I was carrying had no such code on the label. I delivered it. Signed in at the front desk. Took the elevator to the 6th floor. Handed the box to a woman with a visitor badge and a smile that did not reach her eyes. Standard job. But as I walked back to the elevator, I noticed something. The door to the archive room, the one where I had seen the manifest, was propped open with a fire extinguisher. The lights were off inside. I should have kept walking. I had built my entire life on keeping walking. But there was a name on that manifest. A name I recognized. An Omega I had delivered a package to 3 months ago. A package from a clinic. Prenatal vitamins. I remembered because he had opened the door with a hand on his belly and a smile that said he was just beginning to believe this was real. His name was on that manifest. The destination address was not a hospital. I pushed the door open. The archive room smelled like paper dust and old ink and something else. Something chemical and sharp that I did not recognize until I saw the filing cabinet. The lock had been jimmied. The drawer was open. Inside, 15 pages of names. Timestamps. Destination addresses that led nowhere legal. Row after row of Omegas who had been logged into Meridian's system as high-value cargo and shipped to locations that had no reason to receive them. I had 90 seconds. I used 30 of them to memorize the address at the top of the list. A warehouse district. A pier number. Then I closed the drawer, wiped the handle with my sleeve, and walked out of the archive room. I was in the elevator when I heard footsteps behind me. Fast. Deliberate. The doors closed. I made it to the ground floor. I made it across the lobby. I made it to the street. The first blow hit me in the kidneys. A precision strike that folded me forward before I could turn. The second hit the back of my head. I felt my knees hit the pavement. I felt hands on my collar, dragging me into the alley between Meridian and the building next door. You saw something, a voice said. Low. Professional. The voice of someone who had done this before. Nothing. The third blow broke 2 ribs. I heard them crack. I felt the air leave my lungs in a rush that left no room for sound. The 4th blow was to my face. My vision went dark on the left side. I did not scream. I did not beg. I had been raised by a world that taught Omegas that screaming attracted the wrong kind of attention, and that the wrong kind of attention was always worse than the pain. But I thought about the name on that manifest. The Omega with the smile and the hand on his belly. I thought about what waited for him at the end of that shipping route. And I reached into my pocket. The tracking device was not standard issue. I had built it myself, a small transmitter, keyed to a frequency that few people knew existed. I had never used it. I had built it as a contingency I never expected to need. I pressed the activation button once. Then something hit me in the temple, and the world went black. I woke up in a bed that was not mine. The ceiling was white. The sheets were clean. The air smelled like antiseptic and something else, something warm and dark, like cedar smoke after rain. I tried to move. My ribs disagreed. My head throbbed in a rhythm that matched my heartbeat, each pulse a small hammer against my skull. Don't. The voice came from somewhere to my right. Low. Controlled. The kind of voice that did not need to be loud to be heard. Alastair Crowe was sitting in a chair by the window. I had seen photographs of him. Everyone in the city had. But photographs did not capture what he was in person. Not the stillness. Not the weight of his attention. He was not a large man, not bulky, not imposing in the way that bodybuilders or bouncers were imposing. But he filled the room. His presence was a gravitational field. "Your transmitter," he said. "The signal reached one of my men. He found you in the alley. Brought you here." "How long?" 12 hours. "They beat you thoroughly but not intelligently. No permanent damage." His eyes moved over me, assessing, cataloging. "You're lucky. I'm alive." "That's not the same thing." I closed my eyes. The ceiling was still white when I opened them. "Why did your man pick up the signal?" Alastair did not answer immediately. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. My transmitter, the one I had built in my apartment on a night I could not sleep. He turned it over in his hands. "This frequency," he said. "It's not common. It's not even legal. The only people who use it are people who do not want to be found." "Then how did your man find me?" "He did not find the signal. He found the disruption." Alastair set the transmitter on the nightstand. Someone was jamming that frequency in a 3-block radius around Meridian Logistics. My man noticed the dead zone. He went looking for the source. I stared at him. "You have men monitoring that frequency." "I have men monitoring every frequency." His voice was flat. Factual. When someone tries to hide a signal, I want to know what they are hiding. I should have been terrified. I was in the private residence of the most dangerous alpha in the city. I was injured, vulnerable, and entirely at his mercy. Everything I had spent 11 years avoiding had just happened. But I was too tired to be afraid. "You know what I found?" I said. It was not a question. Alastair Crowe looked at me for a long moment. His eyes were the color of winter, gray and cold and utterly unreadable. "I know what you found," he said. "I know you accessed the archive. I know you saw the manifest. I know you memorized an address. Are you going to kill me?" "No." The word landed flat. Not kind. Not soft. Just certain. "Then what are you going to do?" He stood up, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame. "I am going to keep you alive," he said, "whether you like it or not." The first day, I slept. The second day, I tried to leave. I made it as far as the hallway before 2 men appeared, beaters, both of them, broad-shouldered and professionally silent. They did not touch me. They did not threaten me. They simply stood in my way and did not move. "Mr. Crowe has requested that you remain in the residence until you have recovered," one of them said. "Requested?" "Yes, sir." I looked at them. They did not blink. I went back to the room. The third day, Alastair Crowe brought me food. It was not a gesture. It was not romantic. He walked into the room carrying a tray with soup and bread and a glass of water. He set it on the table beside the bed. He checked the bandages on my ribs without asking permission. His fingers were careful, precise. When he touched my skin, his scent shifted, just slightly, just enough for me to notice. Cedar smoke and something sharp. Something that smelled like recognition. He did not say anything. He finished the bandage check. He stood up. He left. I ate the soup. It was the best thing I had tasted in years. The fourth day, I asked him a question. "Why are you doing this?" We were in the living room, a space that was surprisingly ordinary. Neutral colors. Comfortable furniture. No signs of wealth or power. It looked like a room belonging to someone who did not care about appearances. Alastair was standing by the window, looking out at the city below. "Meridian Logistics," he said, "is not mine. It belongs to a man named Bastion Voss." I knew the name. Everyone knew the name. Bastion Voss ran the southern districts, the ports, the shipping lanes, the legitimate trade routes that sometimes carried cargo that was not legitimate. He and Alastair were not allies. They were not enemies. They existed in a careful equilibrium that kept the city from descending into open war. Voss's company, Alastair continued, has been moving omegas for at least 4 years. I suspected it. I did not have proof. Now you do. Now I do. But the manifest you saw is not enough. Voss has layers. Men who will take the fall. Lawyers who will make the evidence disappear. He turned to face me. I need more. I need to know who at Meridian is running the operation. I need the financial trail. I need the destination records. And you need me to get them. No. The word was sharp. Final. I need you to stay alive, he said. The proof will come. But it will not come from you walking into another archive alone. I should have argued. I should have insisted that I could help. But I was still bruised and bandaged and exhausted. And there was something in his voice, something that sounded almost like fear, that made me stop. The 6th day, he almost kissed me. I was sitting up for the first time. My ribs still ached, but the dizziness had faded. He was changing the bandage on my temple. A wound I had not realized was there until he touched it. His fingers were warm. His scent was close. Cedar smoke and that sharpness, that note of something that made my omega instincts sit up and pay attention. He finished the bandage. He did not pull away. For a moment, 1 heartbeat, 2. We were close enough that I could see the tiny crack in the enamel of his cufflink. Close enough that I could feel the heat coming off his skin. He looked at me. I looked at him. His hand moved, not toward me, but away. He set the bandage roll on the table. He stood up. You should rest, he said. He left the room. I lay back against the pillows. My heart was beating too fast. My body was responding to him in ways I did not want to name. I had been invisible for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to be seen by someone who did not want to own me. If this story is finding you at the right moment, if you have ever felt invisible and wondered what it would be like to be seen, stay a little longer. There are more stories like this one. The 9th day, the attack started. The first one came at 3 in the morning. I woke to the sound of glass breaking and the smell of smoke. Alastair was already moving. I heard him bark orders into a phone, heard the heavy footsteps of his men converging on the lower floor. He did not tell me to stay in the room. He did not tell me anything. But when I looked out the window, I saw 3 men in the street below. They were looking up at my window. They saw me. One of them raised a phone. I knew, in that moment, that I had become the most wanted omega in the city. And I knew, with the same certainty, that Alastair Crowe was the only reason I was still breathing. The stitches pulled with every breath. 3 days since the warehouse basement. 3 days since I woke in a room that smelled like cedar and expensive paper, with Alastair Crowe sitting in a chair by the window, watching me sleep like I was something worth guarding. I hated how safe it made me feel. The room was his. I knew it before I opened my eyes. The way the sheets were too heavy, pressed sharp at the edges. The lamp was old brass. The books on the shelf were read more than once. This was not a safe room. This was his bedroom. He had given me his bed. I sat up too fast. Pain lit through my ribs and I bit down on the sound before it escaped. The door opened before I could breathe again. You move, Alastair said. You call me first. He did not ask. He did not threaten. He simply stated it like gravity, like the fact of oxygen. His jaw was set. His hands were empty. I looked at his cufflinks. Silver. One with a hairline crack through the enamel. He wore them to meetings. He wore them to kill. He wore them standing in his own doorway, watching a stranger breathe in his sheets. The courier service will report me missing, I said. Already handled. My apartment. Emptied. Your things are in the room next door. I stared at him. You moved my apartment. I moved what mattered. He paused. Your suppressants were damaged in the attack. The words landed like a blade between my ribs. I felt the heat of shame crawl up my neck. 10 years of careful living. Of never letting anyone see the cycle. Of staying safe by staying predictable. And one attack had stolen all of it. I have a pharmacy contact, he said. Discreet. He can have replacements by tomorrow. I swallowed. Why? Alastair's head tilted. The question was not what he expected. Why are you doing this? My voice cracked on the last word. I am a courier. I carry packages. I am not. I stopped. Worth this. Worth your time. Worth the risk of keeping me alive. You are a witness, he said. Flat. Professional. You have information about Meridian logistics that people will kill for. They already tried. You are under my protection until Bastian Voss clears this mess up. Bastian Voss. The Syndicate head. Alastair's ally. The man who supposedly ran the city's underworld with an iron fist and a clean ledger. How long? Until it is done. I did not believe him. He did not expect me to. But I stayed. 4 days. That was how long it took for the first assassination attempt. I was in the kitchen, Alastair's kitchen, which I had mapped in my head the first morning. 2 exits. 1 window that opened onto a fire escape. Knife block within arm's reach. The habits of a courier who had survived bad neighborhoods. The glass shattered. I was already moving. The bullet hit the wall where my chest had been a half-second before. I hit the floor, rolled, grabbed the knife from the block as I came up. Alastair was not in the room. He was coming down the hallway. I heard his footsteps change. A shift in rhythm that meant he had heard the shot and was already computing. I threw the knife. Not at the shooter. At the light switch. The room went dark. The shooter fired again. Blind. I heard the bullet punch through drywall. Then I heard something else. A body hitting the floor. A choked gasp. The wet sound of impact. The light came back on. Alastair stood over the shooter, one hand on the man's throat, the other holding a gun aimed at the floor. He had not fired. He had broken the man's arm, disarmed him, and pinned him in the time it took me to reach the light switch. You said you had a secure location, I said. I did. His voice was ice. Someone sold the address. He looked at me then. His eyes dropped to my hand. I looked down. I was still holding a second knife. I had not remembered pulling it. Stay behind me, he said. No. He went still. I can fight, I said. I am not a weapon. But I can defend myself. A long pause. Then something shifted in his face. Not surprise. A recalibration. He was adjusting his mental map of who I was. The phone in the study, he said. Sealed line. I need to move resources. You stay in this room until I come back. And if you do not come back? I did not mean the question as a challenge. I meant it as a fact. His world was dangerous. People died. I had seen the aftermath of violence before. Alastair Crowe looked at me with something I could not name. Then you used the knife. He left. I stayed. 6 hours later, he came back with blood on his collar and a thin line of exhaustion under his eyes. Safe House 3 is compromised, he said. Safe House 5 is still viable. We move at dawn. He did not sit. He stood in the doorway of the kitchen with his arms crossed, the cracked cufflink catching the low light. They are putting pressure on Voss, I said. The trafficking connection. They want the records destroyed. I am the only one who saw them. You are the only one who survived seeing them. Same thing. He did not argue. That night, I could not sleep. The suppressants were wearing off. I could feel it in my bones, a slow warmth creeping through my blood, a loosening in my joints that meant my body was preparing for something I had kept locked away for years. I did not tell him, but he knew. I saw him pause in the hallway outside my door. Saw him inhale. Saw his hands clench at his sides before he walked away. He knew. The move happened at 4:47 a.m. 2 black cars. 3 of his men. I sat in the back with Alastair beside me, watching the city blur past through tinted windows. Where are we going? Property I own outside the city limits. No associations. No paper trail. You have properties with no paper trail. He looked at me. I am Alastair Crowe. I did not ask again. The safe house was a farmhouse. Old wood floors. A fireplace that had not been lit in years. The kind of place that held quiet like a held breath. Alastair walked through every room before he let me step inside. Checked windows. Checked locks. Checked the cellar access and the attic hatch. I watched him work. He moved like a man who had done this 1,000 times. Efficient. Unhurried. His hands steady. His eyes scanning for threats that were not there. "The cellar," I said. He stopped. "Did you check the false panel behind the third shelf?" He turned. Slowly. "How do you know about that?" "I grew up in a house like this." I shrugged. "My father hid money there. I assume you hide weapons." A beat of silence. Then the corner of his mouth moved, a fraction of something that was not quite a smile. "Guns," he said. "Ammunition. Emergency cash." "Same thing." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he went back to checking the windows. The days settled into a rhythm. Alastair worked the phones while I healed. He cooked, badly, and I corrected him. He had never learned to season rice. He had never learned to care about whether food tasted good or simply existed. "You eat to survive," I said one evening, watching him burn toast. "I eat because I need fuel." "You are a disaster in a kitchen." He looked at the burnt toast. At me. Back at the toast. "I am a disaster in a kitchen," he agreed. It was the first time I heard him admit a flaw. I did not expect it to make something soften in my chest. 8 days after the assassination attempt, the phone rang at 2 a.m. I was awake. The heat was building. Slow, patient, inevitable. I sat in the dark living room with a blanket around my shoulders, watching the moon through the window. Alastair came down the stairs already dressed. Gun holstered. Coat on. "That was Voss," he said. "He wants to meet. Tomorrow night. Claims he has information about the trafficking operation." "You are going." "I am going." "Alone." "I am always alone." The words hung in the air. He did not seem to realize what he had said. "Take someone," I said. "I do not have anyone I trust." "Then take me." He turned. His expression was unreadable. "You are a witness. You stay protected." "I am a target. I stay visible." I stood. If Voss has information about who is behind this, I need to hear it. I need to know who wants me dead. "You know who wants you dead. Everyone who profits from that shipping manifest. Then let me help you find them." He stared at me. His jaw worked. "You are the most stubborn Omega I have ever met. I am the only Omega you have ever protected." He did not correct me. The meet was in a warehouse on the South Docks. Alastair told me to stay in the car. I stayed in the car for exactly 14 minutes. Then I followed. I had a knife in my jacket. I had a burner phone in my pocket. I had Alastair's scent burned into my memory. Smoke and cedar and something underneath that I had never smelled before. Something that made my pulse quicken for reasons I refused to name. I found him in a back office. He was alone. Voss was not there. "The meeting was a trap," he said without turning. "I know." "Then why are you here?" "Because you are alone." He turned. His eyes were dark. Something in them was raw, exposed in a way I had not seen before. "I have been alone for 14 years, he said. "I do not need a bodyguard." "Then call me something else." The air between us thickened. His scent shifted. Something warmer underneath the smoke. Something that made my breath catch. The door behind me opened. I turned. 3 men. Guns drawn. Alastair moved before I could. He stepped in front of me, blocking their line of fire with his body. "Alastair Crowe," one of them said. "Bastion sends his regards. He wants you to know that your protection of this Omega has become inconvenient." "Tell Bastion," Alastair said, "that I will be having a conversation with him. Soon. Bastion is not taking meetings." I did not say I was asking for one. The crack in his cufflink caught the light as his hand moved to his gun. The shot was half a second later. 2 men down. The third ran. Alastair stood in the middle of the room with smoke curling from his gun barrel and blood on his sleeve. "Get in the car," he said. I did not argue. That night, He sat on the porch of the farmhouse with a glass of whiskey he was not drinking. I sat beside him. You could have died tonight. I could have died every night for the last decade. That is not news. You took a bullet for me. He looked at his shoulder. There was a tear in his jacket. The bullet had grazed him, missing the artery by half an inch. I had already bandaged it. You were in the line of fire, he said. I had to move. You had to move. I repeated the words. You had to move, and you chose to put yourself between me and death. He did not answer. Alastair. I do not like the way you say my name. Then tell me to stop. He looked at me. The moonlight caught the exhaustion in his face, the worry he would never admit to, the fear he carried like a second skin. I leaned forward. He did not move away. I leaned closer. His scent was everywhere. Smoke. Cedar. Something that made the aching in my bones feel like longing. His hand came up, stopped an inch from my face. I felt the heat of it without contact. Keir. My name. He said my name. You are under my protection, he said. His voice was rough. And I am trying very hard to be professional. Then stop trying. The silence stretched. His hand hovered. I could feel his pulse in the air between us. Faster than before, matching mine. If I kiss you, he said, I will not want to stop. Then do not stop. His breath caught. His hand moved to my jaw. Gentle. Impossibly gentle for a man who had killed hours before. And then the phone rang. He pulled back. The moment shattered. He answered the call with a voice steady and cold, as if he had not been trembling a second ago. I sat on the porch and watched the moon and tried to remember how to breathe. Subscribe moment, part 1. I lay in that bed with the scent of him still in the room. Smoke and cedar and something I did not have a name for yet. And I understood that I was not afraid of him. That was the first time I had been unafraid of anyone in 7 years. The next morning, Alastair was gone. A note on the kitchen table. Handwriting that was sharp and purposeful. Every letter placed with intent. Voss's heir is moving against him. The heir is the architect of the trafficking network. I am going to end this. Stay here. Do not follow. A. I read the note 3 times. Then I folded it, put it in my pocket, and started making calls. The heir. The perfect successor. The man everyone believed was loyal. I had delivered packages to him 3 times in the last year. He had smiled at me. He had tipped well. He had been charming and unremarkable and exactly what a syndicate heir should be. I had been delivering evidence of his crimes without knowing it. The phone rang. I answered. Keir. The voice was cold. Familiar. You have something of mine. I have nothing of yours. You have the manifest. The records. The names. I have the truth. A pause. Then a laugh, soft, amused, entirely without warmth. That is a shame. I was hoping we could do this quietly. Who is this? You know who I am. You delivered my mail. The heir. Bastion Voss's perfect successor. I am going to find you, I said. I am going to make sure everyone knows what you did. You cannot find what does not want to be found. The line went dead. I stood in the kitchen with the phone in my hand and the scent of Alastair still on the pillow in the next room. I was a courier. I was an omega. I was alone in a safe house that had already been compromised. I had never felt more dangerous. Alastair returned at dusk. Blood on his shirt. A cut above his eye. The cracked cufflink was gone. Voss is dead, he said. I stopped breathing. His heir killed him. Pinned it on me. The syndicate is splintering. He sat down heavily. I need to disappear. I need to take you somewhere they cannot find us. The heir. He is coming for you. He knows you have the records. He knows you are the only witness. How does he know? Alastair looked at me. His eyes were hollow. Because he was the one who ordered the first assassination. He has been watching you since the moment you opened that drawer. I felt the floor tilt under me. He was there. That night. At the warehouse. Alastair's voice dropped. He was the one who left you for dead. That night, the suppressants failed. I felt it happen at 3:17 a.m. A wave of heat that started in my chest and spread outward, loosening my bones, softening my muscles, pulling a whimper from my throat before I could stop it. I stumbled to the bathroom, ran cold water, pressed my forehead to the mirror. My scent was everywhere. I heard his footsteps in the hallway, heard him stop outside the door. Keir. Do not come in. I can smell you. I know. A pause. His voice, when it came, was careful, deliberate in a way that made my chest ache. Keir, I need you to open the door. You need to leave. I cannot. Alastair. If someone finds us like this, if one of Bastian's men traces your scent, he stopped. I cannot protect you through a door. I opened it. He stood in the hallway with his hands at his sides. His jaw was tight. His fists were clenched. He was not looking at me. He was looking at the wall behind me. I am not going to touch you, he said. Alastair. I am going to stay in the room. I am going to make sure no one comes near you. I am going to sit in that chair. He pointed to the armchair by the window. And I am not going to move. Your control has never been tested like this. His voice cracked. But I would rather burn alive than hurt you. I believed him. I lay on the bed while the heat consumed me. Alastair sat in the chair. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply stayed, solid, present, a wall of safety in the middle of the storm. At some point, I reached out my hand. I did not know why. He looked at it. A muscle in his jaw jumped. Then he reached out and took it. His fingers were warm, steady. He held my hand like it was the most fragile thing he had ever touched. The heat peaked. I gasped. His grip tightened, not to hold me down, but to anchor me. I am here, he said. I am not going anywhere. I held his hand through the worst of it. He held mine through the night. Morning came gray and cold. I woke to the sound of rain and the weight of a blanket I did not remember pulling over myself. Alastair was asleep in the chair. His head was tilted back. His mouth was slightly open. The exhaustion was carved into his face like a wound. I watched him breathe. This man. This killer. This syndicate leader who had built an empire on fear and blood. He had held my hand through the worst night of my life and had asked for nothing in return. I did not know what to do with that. But I knew one thing. I was not going to let him face the air alone. I got dressed. I packed a bag. I left a note on the kitchen table. I know where the records are. I am going to get them. Meet me at the warehouse on Thames Street at noon. Do not follow me before then. Trust me. I was halfway to the door when his hand caught my wrist. You are not going alone. I am the bait. You are the weapon. That is how this works. He stepped in front of me. His eyes were red-rimmed. His scent was raw, smoke and exhaustion and something I did not have a name for yet. If you die, I will not. You do not know that. I know that I trust you. He went still. The words hit him like a blow. You trust me, he repeated. I spent the worst night of my life holding your hand. Yes, I trust you. He stared at me. His hands came up, cupped my face with a gentleness that did not belong to a man who had killed hours before. If you do not come back, then you find me. You burn down the world and you find me. He kissed me. It was not gentle. It was desperate. The kiss of a man who had spent years building walls and had just watched them crumble. Thames Street, he said against my mouth. Noon. I will be there. Promise me. I promise. I left. The rain swallowed me whole. Thames Street warehouse. 11:47 a.m. I was early. The building was abandoned. Graffiti on the walls. Broken windows. The smell of rot and damp. I found the records in a locked safe in the back office. The manifest. The names. The destination addresses. Everything I needed to prove what the heir had done. I grabbed them. Turned. My transmitter was live. Alastair would hear everything. The records are secured, I said into the mic. I am heading to the extraction point. A crackle of static. Then Alastair's voice, strained, tight. Get out. Now. What? He knows. He is coming. Get out of the building, Keir. I ran. The warehouse door slammed open in front of me. 3 men. Guns drawn. I skidded to a stop. Turned. Ran for the back exit. It was locked. I heard footsteps behind me. Voices. The click of a safety being released. I am going to find you, I had said to the air. I am going to make sure everyone knows what you did. I had meant it. But I had not expected to be cornered in a building with no way out and a transmitter that was going silent. The first bullet hit the wall next to my head. The second hit the transmitter. It shattered. I heard Alastair's voice cut off mid-word. And then there was nothing but the sound of footsteps and the drip of rain through the broken roof. I moved. Quick. Low. I ducked behind a stack of crates and counted my breath. 1, 2, 3. The men spread out, calling to each other. I had one knife. I had the records. I had 12 years of knowing how to survive in a city that had never wanted me. You cannot hide forever, Omega. The voice was smooth. Familiar. I have been watching you for months. I know how you move. I know how you think. I know you are brave enough to fight but too kind to kill. The heir stepped into the light. He was younger than I expected. 26. Maybe. Dark hair. Sharp features. A smile that did not reach his eyes. I would have let you live, he said. I told my men to make it quick. But you had to keep digging. You are selling people. I am running a business. You are trafficking Omegas. You are selling them to people who will break them. You are a monster. The smile widened. And what are you? A courier who thought he could change the world with a manifest. I am the one who is going to stop you. You are the one who is going to die. He raised his gun. I threw the knife. It hit his shoulder, not fatal, but enough. He screamed. The gun fired wild. The men rushed me. I fought. I landed 1 hit, 2, 3. I took a blow to the ribs. Another to the face. The world went grey at the edges. The air was shouting. The men were grabbing me. The records were slipping from my hand. And then, the door exploded inward. Alastair Crowe stood in the doorway. His eyes were wild. His hands were full of brass and steel and rage. He did not speak. He did not have to. He moved. I watched him take down 3 men in 12 seconds. I saw the heir try to run. I saw Alastair catch him by the collar and throw him through a window. The glass shattered. The heir screamed. Alastair turned to me. His hands were bloody. His face was raw. You made me promise, he said. I know. I burned every alliance I had to get here. I declared war on every syndicate in this city. I burned the world down. I know. He crossed the room in 3 steps. His hands cupped my face, bloody, shaking. Never do that again. I cannot promise that. He kissed me, hard, desperate. A kiss that tasted like smoke and blood and the future. Then I will follow you, he said. Every time. I will follow you into the fire. I leaned into him. The records were safe. The heir was captured. The trafficking network was exposed. And I was not alone. I had not been alone for a long time. The heir's name was Julian Voss. I learned that while sitting in the back of Alastair's car, pressing a stolen handkerchief to the cut above my eye, watching the city blur past like a wound that would not stop bleeding. Julian Voss. 26 years old. Adopted at 13 by Bastian Voss after his parents died in a fire that was never ruled arson. Raised in luxury, educated in strategy, groomed to inherit an empire built on fear. He had been smuggling Omegas for 6 years. He had been hiding behind his father's reputation for 6 years. He had ordered the assassination of anyone who came close to the truth, including the men who worked for him, the women who kept his books, and the Omega courier who had opened the wrong drawer. I pressed the handkerchief harder. The pain helped me think. The Syndicate will fracture, Alastair said. He was driving too fast, taking corners like he was trying to lose a tail that was not there. Julian had allies. People who thought they were following Bastian's orders were actually following his. When they learn the truth, they will panic. Yes. Good. He glanced at me. His jaw was tight. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Keir. The thing I said. About burning the world down. I remember. I meant it. I know. He was quiet for a moment. The road unspooled in front of us. Dark, wet, endless. I do not know how to stop, he said. I have been fighting my entire life. Every relationship I have ever had was transactional. Every ally I ever trusted is either dead or waiting to betray me. I do not know how to be something other than a weapon. I reached across the console. Put my hand on his. His fingers twitched, not pulling away, but not relaxing either. You are not a weapon, I said. You are the man who held my hand through the worst night of my life. You are the man who walked into a warehouse full of guns because I asked you to. You are the man who burned the world down for a courier he barely knew. He swallowed. That is who you are, I said. That is who you have always been. You just needed someone to see it. His hand turned under mine. His fingers laced through mine. We drove in silence. But it was a different kind of silence now. The safe house was gone. We arrived at 4 a.m. to find the farmhouse burned to the ground. Charred beams. Shattered windows. The smell of smoke and ruin. Alastair stopped the car at the end of the driveway. His scent shifted. Something cold and sharp. A predator assessing a trap. They found it, I said. They found it because someone told them. He killed the engine. Scented the air. We have a leak. You have a leak. We. He looked at me. We have a leak. You are not leaving, Keir. Do not start pretending you are. I did not argue. We drove to a motel on the edge of the city. The kind of place that rented by the hour and did not ask for ID. Alastair paid cash. The clerk did not look at either of us. The room had one bed. Threadbare carpet. A lamp with a flickering bulb. Alastair stood in the middle of it and looked lost. I have never been in a room like this, he said. You have never been on the run. I have never been on the run with someone I. He stopped. I waited. Someone I care about, he finished. Quietly, like the words hurt. I sat on the edge of the bed. The springs creaked. Then sit down. We figure it out together. He looked at me. For a long moment, he did not move. Then he sat beside me. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Not touching, but almost. The records, I said. They name buyers. They name locations. They name the ships Julian used to move Omegas out of the country. If we release them, he will kill everyone on that list before we can move. Then we do not release them. We use them. How? I looked at him. He has a warehouse. The final shipment point. Julian mentioned it once, at the docks. He said something about a place where the records did not matter because the Omegas were already gone. Alastair's eyes sharpened. The North Gate facility. What is it? Abandoned cold storage. Owned by a shell company. I looked into it once, but Bastian told me it was empty. He paused. Bastian did not know. Julian was using his own money. His own network. How do we get in? You do not get in. I do. Alastair. You are not walking into Julian's facility. He knows your face. He knows your scent. He will kill you the moment you step through the door. Then we find another way. There is no other way. I stood, crossed to the window, pulled back the curtain and looked out at the parking lot. Empty. Dark. The kind of place where screams went unheard. I am the bait, I said. No. I am the one he wants. I am the one who has the records. I am the one who survived his assassination attempt. If I walk into that warehouse, he will kill you. He will try. Alastair stood. His hands were shaking. I had never seen his hands shake. Keir, I cannot lose you. You will not lose me. You do not know that. I turned to face him. He was standing in the middle of that terrible room, in the middle of a terrible night, looking at me like I was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. I know, I said, that if I do not do this, more Omegas will die. I know that Julian will find another way to silence me. I know that the only way to end this is to walk into his territory and let him think he has won. Then what? Then you follow. Follow how? I picked up the burner phone from the nightstand. You plant a transmitter on me. Something he will not find. You wait until I give the signal. Then you burn the world down. He stared at me. His Adam's apple bobbed. You are asking me to let you walk into death. I am asking you to trust me. A long silence. The lamp flickered. The heater rattled. The nearest transmitter is 30 miles away, he said. I will need to leave you here while I get it. I know. You will be alone. I have been alone before. That is not a comfort. I stepped toward him, close enough to feel the tremor in his body, the barely contained desperation bleeding off his scent. I am going to come back, I said. I need you to believe that. I need you to make it true. I reached up, touched his jaw. His eyes closed. Then let me go, I said, and be there when I come back. He took my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. I will be there, he said. He left at dawn. I sat in the motel room with the records spread across the bed, memorizing names and dates and locations. The scope of it was staggering. Julian had been moving Omegas through the city for years. Dozens. Hundreds. Young Omegas who had been reported missing. Omegas from families too poor to search. Omegas like me, invisible, forgotten, disposable. I thought about the drawer at Meridian Logistics. The moment I opened it, the moment everything changed, I would do it again. Even knowing what came after, even knowing the cost, I would do it again. Alastair returned at noon. He looked worse than when he left, more exhausted, more wired. He handed me a small device, no larger than a button. Sew it into the lining of your jacket, under the arm. He will not find it unless he strips you. Noted. Keir. He caught my wrist. If you go silent, if I lose contact, you come find me. I will burn the city to the ground. I know. I sewed the transmitter into my jacket. Alastair watched in silence. The Northgate facility was a block of concrete and rust at the edge of the industrial district. No windows. One door. The kind of place that swallowed people whole. I walked up to the door and knocked. A slot slid open. A pair of eyes. What do you want? I want to speak to Julian Voss. I have the records he wants. The eyes narrowed. Who are you? I am the courier who should have died in his warehouse. A pause. Then the sound of locks disengaging. The door opened. I stepped inside. The facility was cold. The kind of cold that got into your bones and stayed there. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The floor was stained with things I did not want to identify. Julian Voss was waiting for me in the center of the room. His arm was bandaged where I had thrown the knife. His face was bruised from the broken window. But he was smiling. Keir Ashford. I was wondering when you would come. You knew I would. I hoped. He spread his arms. You are predictable, Courier. That is your weakness. You care too much. I am not here to talk. Then why are you here? I pulled the records from my jacket. Held them up. You want these? I want the Omegas. The Omegas are already gone. Bullshit. His smile flickered. Excuse me. You would not be here if the shipment was complete. You would have run. You stayed because the deal is not finished. You are waiting for the buyers. He went still. You are smarter than I gave you credit for. I know. And you think I will trade the Omegas for a stack of paper? I think you will trade anything to save yourself. He laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Search him," he said. 2 men grabbed me, patted me down, found the knife, found the spare magazine I had taken from Alastair's bag. They missed the transmitter. "He is clean," one of them said. "Bring him." They dragged me through the facility, past rows of empty cold storage units, past doors that had been bolted from the outside, past the smell of despair and chemical disinfectant. The Omegas were in the last unit. I saw them through the small window in the door. 30, 40, maybe more, huddled together in the cold. Some of them were just children. I felt something inside me go very still. "Impressive, is it not?" Julian said. "I built this. While my father played at being a king, I built an empire. You built a prison. Same thing. We are going to take them out of here. You are going to die in here." He opened the unit door, gestured inside. "After you." I looked at the transmitter, at the Omegas, at Julian's smug, perfect face. Then I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. The cold hit immediately. The Omegas stared at me, wary, frightened, hopeless. "I am here to help," I said. No one moved. "I am Keir. I am an Omega. I found the records that name the buyers. I have someone outside who is going to get us out." "You are lying," a voice said. A young Omega. 16. Maybe. Bruised. Thin. Everyone lies. I am not everyone. I reached into my jacket, pressed the transmitter 3 times. Short. Short. Long. The signal. "Help is coming," I said. "I need you to trust me." Alastair moved like judgment. I heard it before I saw it. The distant crack of gunfire, the shattering of metal, the screams of men who had not expected war to walk through their door. The Omegas pressed together. Some of them cried. Some of them prayed. I stood at the door and waited. The gunfire stopped. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. The door groaned. Buckled. The lock shattered. Alastair Crowe stood in the doorway. His coat was spattered with blood. His eyes were wild. His hands were full of weapons and fury. "I told you I would come. You are late." I had to make an entrance. He looked past me at the Omegas. His expression shifted, something raw and broken crossing his face. "How many?" 42. "Some of them are children." He closed his eyes, took a breath. "Then we get them out." Operating a rescue with 42 traumatized Omegas was not a battle. It was chaos. Alastair's men, the few who had survived his declaration of war, formed a perimeter. I led the Omegas out in groups of 5. Alastair walked point, clearing every corner, checking every shadow. Julian was gone. He had slipped out in the chaos. But the facility was down. The records were secured. The buyers would be exposed. We had one. I stood in the parking lot, watching the Omegas board the vans Alastair had arranged. Medical transport. Safe houses. A network of people who would help them disappear and start over. Alastair came to stand beside me. Julian is still out there. He will surface. Men like him always do. And when he does, I looked at him. Then we find him. Together. He did not answer. But he reached for my hand. Held it in the cold. 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks for the fallout to settle. Julian's network collapsed. The buyers scattered. The Syndicate splintered into factions, and Alastair Crowe, the man who had declared war on every alliance, became the most feared and most trusted man in the underworld. People who had never trusted an alpha suddenly trusted him. People who had never believed in change suddenly had proof. I moved into his house. His real house. The one with the garden and the library and the kitchen where he still could not cook rice. "You need to hire a chef," I said one night. "I have you." I am not a chef. I am a courier who learned to cook because otherwise I would starve. You are a courier who saved 42 lives and brought down a trafficking empire. That was not me. That was us. He looked at me. The firelight caught his face. He looked tired. He looked hopeful. He looked like a man who had spent his whole life in the dark and was only now learning what light felt like. I want to bond with you, he said. I went still. I know it is fast. I know we have not known each other long. But I have spent 14 years building walls and I have spent the last month watching them crumble. Every time I look at you, I realize I do not want to be alone anymore. Alastair. I am not asking for possession. I am asking for choice. I am asking if you will choose me, every day, for the rest of our lives. I looked at him. This man who had burned the world down for me. This man who had held my hand through the worst night of my life. This man who had learned to cook because I told him he was a disaster. The bond, I said. I want it on one condition. Name it. I want to build a protection network. For Omegas who have nowhere to go. I want to make sure no one is ever sold again. He smiled. It was the first real smile I had seen on his face. Then we build it together. He bit me that night. Not in a heat. Not in a rut. In the quiet of his bedroom, with the rain falling outside and the world still spinning from everything we had done. His teeth sank into the curve of my shoulder. The bond flared, bright and warm and endless. I felt everything. His fear. His hope. His love. He felt mine. I am yours, he said. If you want me. I have always wanted you. I just did not know it. We lay in the dark, tangled together, breathing the same air. We should build a home, I said. We have a home. I mean a real one. With a garden. And a room for. I stopped. He went very still. For children, he asked. Maybe. Someday. He pressed his forehead to mine. Someday, he agreed. The protection network grew faster than either of us expected. Within 6 months, we had safe houses in 3 cities. Within a year, we had an underground railroad for Omegas trying to escape trafficking. I ran it. Alastair funded it. His reputation, rebuilt, transformed, opened doors that had been closed for generations. Julian Voss was found in a shipping container in Buenos Aires, trying to flee the country. He was extradited, tried, convicted. He is serving 7 consecutive life sentences. I did not go to the trial. I did not need to see him. He had already lost. The moment I had walked into that warehouse, the moment Alastair had followed me into the fire, the moment we had chosen each other over fear, that was the moment Julian Voss lost everything. 1 year later, I stood in a warehouse on the South Docks. Not the one where I had almost died. A different one. The first safe house of the Keir Ashford Protection Network. The sign above the door read, "No Omega is alone." Alastair stood beside me. His hand was in mine. "Are you ready?" he asked. "I have been ready my whole life." We walked through the door together. Inside, 42 Omegas who had been rescued from Julian's network were waiting. Some of them had families now. Some of them had jobs. Some of them had started their own protection networks in other cities. They were not victims. They were survivors. And I was one of them. That night, Alastair and I sat on the porch of the house we had built. The garden was blooming. The kitchen was full of food I had cooked and he had attempted to help with. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For burning the world down." He laughed. Low. Warm. The sound I had learned to love. "You were worth it." "I know." He looked at me. The moonlight caught his face. The man who had once been a weapon was now something else entirely. "Keir Ashford," he said. "My Omega. My partner. My home. Alastair Crowe. My alpha. My protector. My choice." He kissed me. And for the first time in my life, I was not invisible. I was seen. I was loved. I was home.